All right, so this is the first of a three-part series that we want to do on Facebook Live, just to answer some questions for you guys. We get asked a lot of the same questions over and over, so just to help clarify some things, we're going to wait a few minutes to see if anybody wants to pop on here. Hey, Kat. I see you. And then once we wait, I'll give it another literally 2 minutes. And then, so if you're watching this or replay of this, just fast forward to the 2-minute mark and we'll get going. But I do want to give you guys a chance to hop on. In the meantime, too, you can also, there's tons of information on our website, including a frequently asked questions page there. So lots of the same questions over and over that we get asked on that FAQ page, and we try to answer them there, although each project is very property specific. So sometimes people ask us things and we really don't know the answer until we go out and do a site visit and we get there. New Hampshire is a very specific state. We have beaches, we have mountains, we have granite, we have cliffs, lots of things. So some of the things we won't be able to answer, but we're happy to hop on a call with you after and kind of just schedule that. All right, we'll give it one more minute and then we'll start going through some questions. I also get a lot of questions, a lot of good questions on some of the posts that we have on Facebook and some of the ads that we run. And those come through, and we answer all of those. Just know we see all of the posts, all of the comments on our ads and on our posts that we do see and we do reply to. So please be nice, because we are just a local family like you are. There's so many buttons on Facebook Live.
I don't even know what I'm looking at. I've never seen this side of Facebook.
I haven't seen this side of Facebook either. I did put our links in here as well, link to both the website and also our 2026 catalog, which is pretty cool. So feel free to copy that, paste that, share with friends and families, whoever you want. All right, I'm going to go through. Hey, Emily, thanks for joining. Let me know if you have any specific questions, but otherwise I'm just going to start with kind of a high-level overview of the new ADU law, and then we can, go from there, yeah. So last July, it was House Bill 577. He passed the test. Hey, Charlie. Thank you everybody for commenting. This is so fun. I didn't know what this was going to look like, but I can definitely see all your comments coming right in, so this is great. So House Bill 577 got passed July 2025, and what happened with that was it made accessory dwelling units allowed by right across the state of New Hampshire. Before that, you could still build an accessory dwelling unit. We did have a law that stated that you could. It was just like a yes but. Yeah. Kind of with an asterisk there. So a lot of the cities and towns were making it a little bit more difficult maybe than it needed to be. So, hey Dad, my dad's on here. I can't see you or hear you, but I see your comment. So a lot of cities and towns were making it a little bit more difficult than it needed to be. They were saying, sure, you can build an ADU, but your lot needs to be bigger than it would normally be. Or you can only have certain people live there, or you can't have a second driveway, or you can't have a second electric meter. And there was tons and tons and tons of little details that they were trying to regulate that made it kind of difficult. In fact, it made it so difficult for people that some families were 100% convinced, like, this is not allowed in my town, when in fact it was very much allowed in their town. They just couldn't navigate the zoning because it was so complicated. So House Bill 577 kind of clarified all of that across the board and made sure that families know you can build an ADU, and you can do that by right. You don't have to go to the planning board and ask special permission. You don't have to go to a zoning board. As long as you're within those building setbacks and it's your single family property on your land, go ahead and build that. What do you want to add to that?
It made it a lot easier for us.
It did make it a lot easier for us, yes. We were going and sitting in front of planning boards before, and now we don't have to do that
Yeah,
unless you need a variance.
the admin process is a lot faster now.
Yeah, a little bit less overwhelming for families, so that was great. What other things did the new law change or make easier? This is like a quiz for
I know.
Mark. You can quiz me if you
Well,
want.
I know. Well, I walked out to get that water, so I don't know what he's.
Thank you for the letter.
Yeah.
It said that you can have a new you can have your own electric meter if you want. So some towns were saying, sure, you can build this ADU, but you can't get a separate electric service. So now you can get a separate electric service.
Separate the meters.
And get a separate meter. That way, if you want to have family in it for right now and you guys are sharing the bill and it doesn't matter, that's great, but maybe down the road you want to rent it, at least now your tenant will have their own electric meter and you don't have to worry about that. The majority of the ADUs that we do build do actually run off all electric, so that's really good. Charlie's asking if the new law made it easier for possible financing. Yeah, we're going to do a whole series on financing on these. So the way that we build these is stick-built on-site on a foundation. So we could finance them before or now. The new law didn't necessarily make
really
it.
affected it.
I don't think it affected financing per se either, directly at least. But just having the process be easier, people are now, okay, I can do this. Now they're more apt to kind of dig into like how, or let's figure this out. And that's kind of where the financing piece comes in, and they actually get to that point. Whereas before they were getting kind of red
Jammed up
tape,
in the middle.
yeah, roadblocked before they even got there. So that's been really, really cool. The new law also says that family does not have to live in your ADU. So if you are an investor with single family homes and you're trying to find other investment properties, maybe you can't, but you have a couple single families that you rent, that you have, or maybe you want to put an ADU on them to rent out. So the town can never require that family lives there. They will, however, likely require that the owner lives in one or the other. Yeah, so towns regulate that differently. We've seen everything from record a covenant on your deed that says that this property is going to be lived in by the owner, all the way to just check in with the town every year, record an affidavit with the town. Who follows up on that? I'm not sure every town. It just depends on where you are and how they decide to do that. So that's been cool. We've been educating not only families but also a lot of realtors and investors on this new law. So it's been great. Any other questions on the new law? Oh, also, fun fact, we have the actual signed law by the governor hanging in our office. So that is super cool. We were invited to that signing, and it was awesome. So for planning, let's talk a little bit about planning and zoning and what this stuff means when people say like, oh, it's a special exception or a conditional use permit or allowed by right. What does that actually mean? So if it's something is allowed by right, it means you still need to get your building permit. But it means you can just go straight to the building permit. You don't have to go to the town and ask for any special permission or sit in front of any boards or, do anything outside of the ordinary that would be required. It just means that here you go, you submit your plans, you tell us what you're going to do, we give you the building permit, and you're on your way, you're off to the races.
As long as it fits in the setbacks.
Mm-hmm. It does have to fit in the setbacks.
Oh, and the square footage. It can't be, over 1,000 square feet, and then some towns will let you go up to 750.
So
Is that it?
what the new law said was that the towns cannot make the maximum size less than 750. So some towns we were saying, okay, you can build an ADU, but no more than 700 square feet. And some families needed or wanted 2 bedrooms, and 2 bedrooms and 700 square feet is a little tight. 750 usually is like the kind of starting point for a 2-bedroom unit, and then up to there. So because of this new law, they have been expanding their definitions and their regulations for size. We've been seeing what's happening now is that the law changed, and then the towns have all their current zoning, So now all the current zoning for the towns has to catch up to the new law. So even if you go to your town's website and you pull up the zoning regs and you read through them, just know that that might not be accurate. That might be from before the law was passed, and they're still catching up. So we're seeing every single day, because each town and city in New Hampshire is a little bit different. We're seeing amendments that are going through. Some are happening this month. Some are happening in March that we've seen. Some came through in December. So you just go to your town's website, look for the zoning, and make sure there are not any addendums there that are live or about to be voted on. And if there are, that's okay. I would just give the town a call and say, hey, I'm looking to build an ADU. What changes you guys have? When do you expect your zoning to be updated? Because this is going to take some time. The governor actually signed quite a few housing bills, and so towns are just kind of rapidly trying to play catch up. Yeah, it's a bit of a moving target for everybody right now as we navigate the new landscape and try to figure things out. So that's good for planning and zoning, unless other people have more questions. But just know that. I think we should mention too that you do have to be within the building setback. So we've said that a couple times. So to clarify on that means that you have a property boundary, and then you have this kind of gray area next to it that's called your building setback, and then you have your house. So your building setback, you can't be putting a building there. Then once you're in the building setback, that's called encroaching on your neighbor. So you're a little bit too close to the property line. So there's that buffer zone there, and they want to make sure that you're clear of that. You're not coming within that setback there. If you do, or if you are too close to that setback, we're probably going to notice that when we come out to do a site visit, and at that point, we're going to say, okay, you're a little bit tight here. We're going to recommend a survey. If you don't already have one, if you have one from previously, that's great. We'll absolutely try to reuse that one. We have successfully used surveys back to the 90s actually to get these ADUs permitted. So that's very exciting because surveys a few $1,000 depending on the lot. So that can save you some money there. Donna's asking, is there a minimum lot size requirement? There's not, Donna, but there's a couple caveats to that. So I'm glad you asked. So minimum lot size, no. But if you fit within the setbacks there, like we were just talking about, then you can go ahead and build that. It is going to have to be in the side yard or the backyard. They don't want ADUs in the front. So it needs to be quite literally the accessory dwelling unit. It needs to be an accessory to the big house. So front is not allowed. Side and back is fine. If you're on a septic system, I think this is probably a good segue to the septic system. Donna, I don't know if you're on a septic system or not, but this would affect your question. And Kat, I'll get to your question in a second here. So if you're on a septic system, there's going to be a thing called lot coverage that we need to make sure that we meet. A septic system is designed for a certain number of bedrooms. An ADU, a one-bedroom ADU, it does not equal one bedroom in your septic design, unfortunately, because it's a whole dwelling. So it counts as a little bit more than one bedroom. So there's a whole ratio there that the septic designer will do. He'll make sure that the number of bedrooms in your main house and the size of your ADU together have...
He has to design a septic system that can handle that load.
Right.
And if your lot is under a certain amount of area, then there's a whole calculation for it, like you need enough land to put a septic system in big enough to handle all the bedrooms.
Yeah, it's called the lot coverage ratio. So if you're for example, here's a real life example. We had a family on a half an acre lot. They had a 4-bedroom house and they were looking to put in just a 1-bedroom ADU. So their lot was very full of granite. So they didn't have very nice draining soils. Your soils come into play here too, which is just adds kind of another piece to the puzzle that we're gonna put together there. So if you have a lot of ledge and a smaller lot, so for example, this family was on half an acre, 4-bedroom house, they wanted a 1-bedroom ADU. So this is gonna bump them up to about a 6-bedroom septic, which is a pretty large system. Now, they're not gonna necessarily have to install that system, but the lot is going to have to be able to handle it if and when the time comes where it is time to install that system, because eventually they will. So the lot coverage ratio on that lot was just too tight. So we had to get a little bit creative. We ended up doing a master suite addition for them. They ended up taking a bedroom out of the main house that they didn't need or use anymore, and they were totally fine with that. So there's ways to do it. We actually just went and saw another family as well, and we knew going in that this was going to be pretty tight for the exact same reasons. So we actually sent them to the septic designer very first thing, because that we kind of knew ahead of time that that was going to be the disqualifier if there was going to be a disqualifier. So lot size, minimum lot size for an ADU, face value, no. But no, but like everything else, right? But you need that lot coverage ratio to work out if you're on a septic system, and otherwise you need to be able to meet the setbacks. Kat's asking if the bills for attached and detached. Yes. So attached to your house, built right in, create a mudroom, a pathway, a walkway, however you want to do it, off the back of the garage, straight up. We can do all of that. That's allowed by right, as well as just a small standalone house in your backyard, not attached to anything if you don't want it to be. Are utilities metered separately on an attached ADU? They can be, if you want them to be. Typically the path of least resistance, and also the path that is the most cost effective, is to just tie right in to the basement for sewer. So one of the things that the bill also stated was that the cities and towns cannot require that you get a separate connection to the street. So if you're on public sewer, public water, some cities were saying, okay, great, you're on public, so if you want this ADU on the side, you got to dig all the way to the street and tie into those public utilities. Well, that's expensive. That's invasive. We're digging up driveways then. You have to get a police detail. Like, it just wasn't feasible for some people. So the law said, okay, time out. Cities and towns, you cannot require that people are getting these separate utilities. If it's easier to just tie into the existing basement, which, how often is it easier to do that?
All the often.
All of the often. It's usually always easier to just go right into the basement. So the majority of families that we're seeing are not opting to have separate utilities, even if they do have an attached ADU, just because it's easier and cheaper and families going to live there anyways. Or, the lift on the water sewer bill isn't that drastic because the ADUs are typically under 1,000 square feet. So it's not like there's a ton of people living there. So they just choose to tie it in right into their basement. All right, we have a few minutes left. I'm going to jump into, I do want to stop right at 5:20. I'm going to jump into property impact, taxes, property value, things like that, unless somebody else has a different question.
Boy, you better hurry up.
Mark, will your taxes go up if you build an ADU?
Yes. They're going to go up anyways.
They're going to go up. Your taxes are going to go up, unfortunately. But yeah, building an ADU on your property is, it adds a lot of value. Anywhere between, we are seeing statistics anywhere between 20 and 35% increase in property value. Personally, I think 35% is a little bit high. But either way, even if it's on the lower end and it's a 20% increase in property value, when we close out that permit and you get your certificate of occupancy to go ahead and move in, the town is going to reassess your property at some point in the near future, and it is going to be worth more on your tax card from an assessor's standpoint. So that is their opportunity to raise your taxes, unfortunately. In the increased value, I touched on that. So I don't know, are there any other items you want to touch on, or any other questions we have about that? I got everything on our list. All right, I think I'm going to end it there then. And the next one we have coming up, gosh, I don't have it in front of me. I should have been ready for this so I could tell you guys. It is going to be in February.
How about a well?
Oh, how about a well?
Yeah. So usually we tie into the water just in the basement, but we're working on one right now that they wanted to tie into the current well. So instead of going through the basement, they just wanted to tee off from the actual well line. Mm-hmm. So you can go both ways.
You're welcome, Jen. Yeah, so we could do either, like Mark said. We're always going to try to find, I think, unless you have a specific request or a need for a utility connection one way or the other, we're going to assess the whole thing and try to find the path of least resistance.
Yeah. If you're worried about like water pressure or volume, then we'll just, that's like one of those case by case. We'll just figure it out.
All right, so we're going to be doing this again on February 11th. Same thing, quick 20-minute kind of in and out, and we're going to go more into like what exactly happens after you get your building permit and how are we building these. We are called Kinstruct Tiny Homes, but we don't build anything on wheels or mobile or even modular or prefab. So the way that we build is much maybe different than you initially think of with a tiny home. So we're going to go into more of the details about that here in New Hampshire. So thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to end this now, and hopefully I can post it and replay it, and you can save it if you need it. And feel free to send us messages on socials anytime. We're always on there and checking comments, like I said, and we will get back to you very quickly.
Thank you.